Philip, how do you see it? What does Wray's resignation mean for the agency?
I think it means a lot. I mean, first of all, it's an embarrassment for the Congress that this is even happening. If we go back to history for just a moment, the idea of the FBI is that the FBI should be outside political turbulence. The FBI director position is so powerful, so influential in terms of things like what you saw before in the past couple of years, the Russia investigation, for example, or the investigation into Hillary Clinton. That position is so powerful that Congress said that should be a 10-year position, so it's outside the presidential election cycle. So what does the Congress do? They watch the president-elect purposely put this position within the presidential election cycle, violating what the Congress wanted to do. And the Congress is evidently saying, at least Republicans are evidently saying, we don't care. So my first impression is it's really important for the FBI, but it's an embarrassment for the Congress, Anna.
Guys, let's hear from someone who, in a way, has been in Wray's shoes, former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe, who was dismissed during Trump's first administration by then Attorney General Jeff Sessions. Take a listen.
But I believe very strongly that the principle of FBI independence is worth defending. And in this moment, the way to best defend that principle, this post-Watergate reform that has been the core of the FBI for the last 50 years, the FBI that the American people rely upon, the FBI that's independent from politics, the best way to defend that principle would be to remain in his position and force the president to fire him.
So you think he should have stayed?
I do.
Director Brennan, what do you think? Should Wray have stayed and forced Trump to fire him?
I was deeply disappointed yesterday when I heard that Director Wray had decided to step down. I think Director Wray has carried out his responsibilities, his very solemn responsibilities over the last 7 years with great professionalism and integrity and in a very nonpartisan, apolitical way, which is what both Phil and Andy have said. The importance of making sure that the FBI director is going to be an independent actor and is not going to be beholden to political sort of individuals such as Donald Trump. And it's clear that Donald Trump's announcement that he was going to fire Wray and his selection of Kash Patel was with politically corrupt intent. That's because he didn't like some of the things that Christopher Wray did. Donald Trump wants somebody at the helm of the FBI who is going to be able to carry out his agenda. And Kash Patel, over the last number of years, has demonstrated over and over again that he is exceptionally malleable in Donald Trump's hands. And so I really do think that this is a defining moment in a very unfortunate way in terms of the FBI, both because the Congress, the Senate, is basically, looks like they're going to be ignoring this contravention of their earlier decision to make this FBI director term a 10-year term. But also, I think it just is going to fracture the FBI because well, the things that Kash Patel has already said really, I think, is sending shivers down the spines of many FBI officers. And so I do think that Director Wray would have done more of a service to the Bureau by not capitulating to Donald Trump, by staying there. And it's clear that Donald Trump could fire Chris Wray on day one. But again, the principle is important to be able to make sure that the FBI is going to be the premier law enforcement, not only in the country, but in the world, and is not going to be subject to the political whims and direction of individuals such as Donald Trump.
I mean, largely we are seeing positive reaction from Republicans, in particular Republican senators who will have to confirm the next FBI director. Senator Chuck Grassley said this after Wray's announcement. Future FBI directors ought to learn a lesson from Wray's mistakes, stonewalling Congress, breaking promises, applying double standards, and turning your back on whistleblowers is no longer going to cut it. Phil, your thoughts on that? Did Wray make mistakes?
Look, I think he was a terrific director. There are no good choices when you're looking at whether to continue or shut down a Russia investigation, just as we saw with the Hillary Clinton investigation years ago. But remember, he came in with one of several missions. The big mission was limiting the turbulence in the Bureau, the turbulence of the James Comey era. Wray was, if nothing else, quiet, understated, behind the scenes, exactly what the Bureau needed at that time. And I think John's right. This is a debatable question about whether Wray should have left. I think he should have, because if he had stayed, that mission of eliminating turbulence in the Bureau would have been turned upside down. It would have been an ugly month or two.
Let's talk about Kash Patel a bit more here. 23 state attorneys general signed a letter in support of Patel, saying Americans have a crisis in confidence in FBI's leadership, and it is time for a leader to refocus the FBI. But take a listen on what Patel himself says he wants to do.
We will go out and find the conspirators, not just in government, but in the media. Yes, we're going to come after the people in the media.
I'd shut down the FBI Hoover building on day one and reopening the next day as a museum of the deep state.
Director Brennan, your reaction to this kind of rhetoric coming from someone who could soon lead the FBI?
Again, it's absurd. Kash Patel not only doesn't have the executive experience that is needed to run an organization such as the FBI, which has tremendous breadth of responsibility and authorities, but clearly he is somebody who is disparaging the work of the FBI, the work that is done every day by women and men across this country. And so his attitude, I think, toward the Bureau reflects the attitude of a Donald Trump, and also, unfortunately, members of the Republican Party in Congress who don't want to have an independent and apolitical FBI. They want something that Donald Trump can use for his own advantage and to go against his rivals. And again, this is something that I've seen overseas in terms of authoritarian leaders, autocrats, who control the instruments of power and intimidation and fear and their security and intelligence services. They put people who are just going to be sycophantic to them in these positions so that they can be used in a very politically corrupt way. So I do hope that this confirmation hearing that Kash Patel is going to go through is really going to expose some of this. And I do not believe that he is somebody who is qualified to lead the Bureau.
What do you think about that, Phil? We just heard Kash Patel in that clip say he wants to turn the FBI building into a deep state museum. If he is selected and confirmed to run the FBI, he will be at the helm of an agency of some 38,000 people. What would his leadership prospect mean for the rank and file?
I think the first question is really boring, and that is, who's his deputy? When I served at the FBI, I shifted over from the CIA. It was interesting to watch how the FBI operated. Robert Mueller, the director when I was there, was sort of the outside guy, Congress, the White House, et cetera, the voice or the face for the media occasionally. Typically at the FBI, the deputy is a senior agent who's been around for decades. The senior agent runs inside. How do you run investigations? How do you ensure that investigations are run properly? So boring as it sounds, Anna, one of the things I'll be watching is if Mr. Patel is confirmed, and I don't think he will be, partly because he simply doesn't have the experience for the job. But if he is confirmed, will there be a deputy who knows how things work, or will he bring in another disruptor as a deputy? I'll be watching that really closely.
Vaughn Hilliard just spoke with President-elect Trump as he is transitioning at the New York Stock Exchange from ringing the opening bell this morning. Vaughn asked him if he wanted to comment on Director Wray's announcement, and all he said was, quote, "I wish him well."